patch of stinging nettles. I'm going to make stinging nettle tea today. It's a compost tea, but it's a fermented tea, an anaerobic tea. So I won't be adding a bubbler to it. I'll be taking the stinging nettles, chopping them down, filling this bucket with it, covering it with water, put a stone on top of that. That stone will hold underwater, depriving it of oxygen. It'll break down in there and ferment. About a week, 10 days, 2 weeks at most from now, my nose will tell me when it's done. It stinks pretty good. But then I'll take that anaerobic tea and I'll add it to a bubble tea, an aerobic tea that I've made out of compost and molasses. And I'll use it that way to make it safe. A lot of the pathogens are attracted to the anaerobic environment. I used to just spray it the way it is, so instead I oxygenate it and use the compost tea with it. Put it on my sprayer, backpack sprayer, and I spray it on all the trees around here. But for now, I'll show you how I harvest this. Short sleeve and shorts is probably not the way to go, but just be careful. I try to push it over, grab it by the base, and hack it off.
You can see the hairs on there or not. All these little hairs are what sting you.
I actually have a painful elbow and seizing muscles in my back, and I will take it and brush it on there a few times. Ooh, it seems to make it better. I'll feel that all night long. There'll be a little tingle in my arm, but it takes the intense pinching out of my arm, whatever that is.
So I'll go fill that with water and cover it with a stone. Word to the wise, wear a better glove than this. Got it all over my knuckles.
So this one's comfrey. You see I've got quite a few clumps of it around here. It's permaculture's favorite plant, I would say. It's our dynamic accumulator, meaning it accumulates nutrients from down deep in the soil, has a real big, long, deep taproot. It goes down, accumulates those nutrients, and then stores them in its leaves. I can then chop these leaves, same as we did the stinging nettles. I'll fill this bucket up with comfrey here. Put a stone on that and cover it with water and let it ferment for a week, maybe 2. Again, the smell will let me know when it's ready. Unlike the nettles, I don't need gloves for this. This is edible, I never eat it. It's a bone mender. Kind of like the stinging nettle, I slapped myself on that hurting elbow. I'll make a poultice and put this on my bones when they hurt. It's a bone mender, a bone healer. For bad bruises. But anyways, this is real easy. It's easiest with a machete. Some of these are flowering right now. I'm going to leave these ones out front to flower. I'll just take these back ones. I have too many in this area. That's another story, but this is very easy to grow. Very easy to propagate. You can pull it up. It really only takes a 1-inch piece of it or so stuck in the soil will create a new plant. That's why it gets a bad name, because when the farmers first used it, they just grew it and then tilled it in. When they tilled it, it broke into a million pieces and spread it everywhere. It will stay where you plant it and not move around. The reason I have it many places here is because the one that was in this guild, excuse my voice, the one that was in this guild, I made cuttings out of and put them into buckets around here. Now thinking about the bucket growing out the bottom and into the planting area here. So now I've got quite a few of them around here. So be careful if you're going to grow it in pots where you put those pots. If they're on soil, you'll have comfrey there from now on. You can always just mulch that with a cardboard, a few layers of cardboard, and it would kill it off. So that's the comfrey. I'm not sure who he is. So I've got both buckets, filling them with water. I kind of give them a little pounce around while I do it, mush it up a little bit, get things started. City water is chlorinated. I try not to use it, so when I do, I let it mist like that. I believe that sends off some of the chlorine. Now I'll lay some of these block brick on top to hold the vegetable matter down. Plant matter down.
Now I'll let that ferment. Get going on a batch of compost tea. I'll mix that from this earthworm, this red wiggler compost, and the hot compost in there, mixed with some. I'm drawing a blank, thinking about three things at once. Mixed with some molasses. I'll let that aerate overnight, if not for 24 to 48 hours, so it gets a good foam head on it. We'll take a look at that next.
So my mic quit working, so we're going to do a recap. Started with 5 gallons of water to make the tea. It's a monarch butterfly. So we started with 5 gallons of water for the tea. I took a painter's sack. You can get it at any hardware store, big box hardware store. These are for 5 gallon buckets for painters. But I put about a cup of compost into this. Closed up the top. Put it in the water. I added 1/3 to 1/2 cup of the backstrap molasses. I bubbled this in that water for 24 hours until I got the foam head on top. After that, I took out the backpack sprayer, dumping 1/3 to 1/2 of the backpack, filling the backpack sprayer 1/3 to 1/2 way with the compost tea. I then added a 1/4 cup and the appropriate amount, 1 ounce per gallon in there, so 5 ounces of this, 5 ounces of pure neem oil, and 5 ounces of the Neptune Organic. The big thing to remember with these, when you're getting the fish fertilizer, is it's got to be cold pressed. This is a cold press fertilizer, fish fertilizer. It means it keeps all the oils in there. The oils don't separate out when they're doing the process. So it has to be a cold pressed fish oil and a cold pressed pure neem oil. We'll say it right on there, cold pressed pure neem oil. So I'll add those by directions to the proper amount, along with the right ratio of compost tea into the backpack sprayer. And I'll go around and spray all the leaves, fruit, trunks, all the leaves, fruit, trunks, anything around to make sure it's thoroughly covered with that mixture. The reason we're doing this is I'll show a short clip of it, a close-up of an apple, is this petal fall right now. So the reason I'm adding the neems is everything's already been pollinated. Most of our fruit trees is set fruit. We don't have to worry about keeping the bugs off of those and not pollinating them. So now that they've been pollinated, we'll go ahead and use the neem to protect it. It's called petal fall. So the apples are losing their petals now, the fruit is set.
Just want to take a look. These apples here. These ones here. So the reason we're doing this spray now is because this is called petal fall. These apples have lost all their petals. They've been pollinated, and now the fruit is growing. So now it's safe to add the neems to the mixture to protect these young fruit. In another 2 weeks, I'll come along and spray all these again. They'll be slightly larger at that point, and I'll cover them with a clay. Kaolin clay, if I'm pronouncing that correctly or not. It's a modeler's clay. It's also used to stop leaks in ponds and lakes. But I'll spray and cover these with kaolin clay. That'll make sure the insects really don't want to get in there. It'll take 3 coverings. Between the different compost tea sprays, with the stinging nettles, with the comfrey teas, with and without the neems, now with the neems. And from this point forward, in between every compost tea spraying, every 3 weeks to a month, I'll be covering these with wet clay as well. 3 good coatings. I lost my mic, but I want to do a voiceover for this segment, explaining that I do use about a teaspoon or so of the dish soap to emulsify the neem's oil in the fish. That allows it to break down into smaller particles and separate and become part of the water. If not, it's like oil and water. They don't combine. We'll have a look here in a second down inside the backpack sprayer before I add the dish soap. You can see everything's separate in there, not combining. So I add a few drops of the dish soap, and then by putting the rest of the water in there and spraying it and giving it a good shake, here you can see as I add the dish soap, everything separates. But now I'll put the hose in there and finish spraying in there and filling it. That'll mix it. I'll continuously shake it while it's on my back as well to make sure that it's continually being mixed together and not separated. So here we see me spraying the apple tree, making sure I get it in good and close, covering all the underside and the top of the leaves, the bark, the stems, reaching right into the inside of the tree and covering the main bark, the main stem, the main trunk, shaking the backpack as I'm spraying to make sure that things don't stay separated. Make sure that everything combines inside that sprayer. Same thing with all these young grapes, grape leaves. I want to spray both sides, the vine, everywhere I can. By doing that, we're beating anything unhealthy to the punch, covering that surface with beneficial life, so something non-beneficial doesn't show up.
Hope this video has helped you. If so, please like and share. I'm George. This is Fat Ninja Farm. Be kind to one another. Peace.